Unprepared. It is a word that stings, doesn't it? If I asked you right now, you would probably say you are ready. You have food in the pantry. You have blankets. You have lived through decades of winters. But let's look at the reality unfolding outside right now. On January 26th, 2026, the storm isn't just coming. It has already claimed 10 lives from New York to Texas. We aren't talking about hikers on a mountain. We are talking about people found in their driveways and bedrooms. Over 19,000 flights have been canceled, leaving families separated. And most critically, 840,000 homes across the South are currently sitting in the dark. With temperatures plunging toward a forecast of minus 45 degrees Celsius, here is the hard truth. The people who died this week didn't die because they lacked courage. They died because they were prepared for a weather event, but they were unprepared for the slow collapse of their own biology. For those of us living in single-story suburban homes, dependent on the grid for heat and the pharmacy for stability, the rules of survival have changed. When the power dies and the house goes silent, the danger is no longer the snow. It is the fact that at 70 years old, your body may no longer shiver to generate heat. That natural alarm system is broken. While you sit waiting for the lights to return, your blood is thickening in response to the cold, turning a simple shovel of snow or a skipped heart medication into a fatal event. We are not here to talk about bushcraft or hiking out. We are here to talk about how to survive the silence, how to make decisions when your energy is fading, your hands are stiff, and help is days away. Let's identify the specific mistakes killing our generation and how to survive the cold without fighting it. I have a serious question for those managing chronic conditions like diabetes or hypertension. If this blackout lasts 5 days as predicted for many counties and your insulin needs refrigeration or your electronic blood pressure monitor batteries die, what is your plan B? Tell me in the comments. Do you have a manual way to check your vitals or a non-electric way to keep meds cool safe? Let's share knowledge to help each other. Mistake #1. The siren song of the streetlight. Imagine this scenario where you are driving home from the pharmacy as the snow falls faster than your wipers can handle. Suddenly, your car slides softly but firmly into a ditch, and the engine stalls while the heater dies. Outside the window, the world has turned into a swirling wall of white, and this is the moment where instinct betrays you. You look out into the storm and swear you see a light, which might look like a porch light or a gas station just a few hundred yards away. Your brain tells you that you can make it and that sitting there is giving up. This is what we call the Walking Dead error, and it is almost always fatal for our age group. Here is what you do not know. That light you see might not be real because in a severe whiteout, the human brain suffers from the Ganzfeld effect, where your mind, starved for visual contrast in the endless white, begins to hallucinate geometric shapes and lights that do not exist. You are literally seeing safety where there is only a frozen field. Even if that light is real, the walk itself is a trap, because for a person over 65, trudging through knee-deep snow is not walking. Cardiologists equate the exertion of struggling through heavy snow in heavy clothes to running a full sprint on a treadmill. Your heart rate spikes within 30 seconds, but your cold, constricted arteries cannot supply enough oxygen, so you do not freeze to death first, but rather collapse from cardiac arrest before you make it 50 feet. Statistics from past blizzards are heartbreakingly consistent, as the majority of frozen bodies are found less than 1 mile from their abandoned vehicles. They had a steel fortress against the wind, but they traded it for a walk they physically could not finish. The rule is to stay in the car because it is your shell, and even without gas, it protects you from the wind chill. Tie a colored cloth to the antenna and crack the downwind window a tiny bit for air while huddling under your emergency blanket. You are not trapped, but rather you are safe. So wait for the professionals to find you. Mistake #2. The Widowmaker. The storm has finally passed, and you look out at your driveway to see a 3-foot wall of white blocking your escape route. Your instinct is to grab the shovel because you have spent a lifetime being independent, and you feel a desperate need to know you can get out if an emergency happens. However, I need you to put the shovel down and understand why emergency room doctors quietly refer to that tool as the Widowmaker. You might believe you are just clearing a path, but biologically you are stepping into a lethal trap. The moment the freezing air hits your face, your arteries instinctively constrict to preserve heat, which instantly drives up your blood pressure. Then you begin to lift. You might think you are just moving light fluffy powder, but an average suburban driveway after a heavy storm holds over 2,000 pounds of snow, which means clearing it by yourself is the physical equivalent of deadlifting a compact car piece by piece. This creates a deadly conflict inside your chest because your muscles are screaming for oxygen to lift that heavy weight, while your narrowed arteries are restricting blood flow to the heart. This is not just exercise, it is a perfect storm for a sudden myocardial infarction. Many elderly victims are found with the shovel still in their hands, having collapsed before they even felt the chest pain. In a slow collapse scenario where the ambulance might be 3 days away, a back injury or a heart attack is a death sentence. Please leave the driveway blocked. If you absolutely must clear a path for safety, wait for a neighborhood teenager, or simply wait for the sun. In a survival situation, preserving your heart function is infinitely more valuable than a patch of clear asphalt that leads to unplowed roads anyway. Mistake #3. The quiet exit. It is the third night without power, and the silence in your single-story home is heavy. The thermostat has dropped below freezing, and in a moment of desperation, you might think about opening the gas oven door to warm the kitchen or pulling the portable generator into the attached garage to protect it from thieves. Please stop right there, because this is how the silent killer enters your home. Carbon monoxide is invisible and odorless, but it is chemically aggressive. It bonds to your red blood cells 200 times tighter than oxygen, which means even a small leak effectively suffocates your organs while your lungs are still technically full of air. This is catastrophic for our age group because the early symptoms of poisoning are dizziness, confusion, and fatigue, which feel exactly like the exhaustion you are already feeling from the stress of the storm. You will not gasp for air or panic, but rather you will simply feel the urge to take a nap and never wake up. The danger is that your aging senses are less likely to detect the fumes, and your body processes the toxin much slower than a younger person. The rule is absolute, so generators must stay 20 feet away from the house, and the gas stove is for cooking only. If you do not have a battery-powered CO detector sitting on your nightstand right now, you are sleeping inside a ticking time bomb. So please check the batteries before you close your eyes tonight. Mistake? #4. The space heater. Trapped when the central heat dies, you inevitably reach for alternatives, like that old dusty space heater from the attic or a cluster of scented candles on the coffee table. In a single-story home where you are huddled under layers of blankets, this feels cozy, but it creates a perfect incendiary triangle. You are likely wearing synthetic fleece pajamas or wrapping yourself in polyester throws, which are highly flammable materials that melt and stick to skin instantly if they brush against a heating coil. The statistics are terrifying, as space heaters account for 4 out of every 5 home heating fire deaths. However, the real threat to our age group is biological, not electrical. Medical research indicates that by age 70, nearly half of the population has lost so much olfactory sensitivity that they physically cannot smell the early stages of smoke. While a younger person might wake up to the scent of burning dust, your brain might sleep right through the smoldering phase until the alarms finally scream. In a cluttered room with limited mobility, trying to escape a fast-moving fire in the dark is a nightmare scenario you likely will not win. The survival strategy is strict discipline, so keep a 3-foot safety zone around any heat source and never leave it unattended. If the power is out, rely on battery-operated lanterns instead of candles, because a dead battery is always better than a burnt house. Mistake #5. The silent chill. You are sitting in your favorite armchair wrapped in a quilt, and while the power is out, the house does not feel freezing yet. It just feels brisk like a fall evening, so you decide to nap until the lights come back on. This is the most dangerous nap you will ever take, because you are falling victim to indoor hypothermia, a condition that kills more seniors during power outages than the blizzard itself. The common myth is that you must be outside in the snow to freeze, but for our age group, the threat is right here in the living room. Geriatric medical data confirms that an elderly person can slip into early-stage hypothermia in a room as warm as 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius, because aging bodies often lose the autonomic ability to shiver. That uncontrollable shaking is the body's way of generating emergency heat, and without it, you simply cool down like a cup of coffee left on the counter without ever feeling that bone-chilling warning sign. The symptoms are not shivering, but rather confusion and clumsiness, or what we call the umbles, which include stumbling, mumbling, and fumbling. You might drop your pill bottle or slur your words and think it is just fatigue from the storm stress. To survive this, do not wait until you feel cold because your sensors are lying to you. Wear a hat even indoors because you lose significant heat through your scalp, and build a microclimate by setting up a small tent or blanket fort in the living room. It is much easier for your body to heat a small cubic space than an entire suburban house, so make your world smaller to stay alive. Mistake hash. 6. The alcohol myth. We have all seen the classic image of the St. Bernard rescue dog carrying a small wooden barrel of brandy around its neck to save frozen travelers. That romantic idea is perhaps the most dangerous folklore in survival history, because while a shot of whiskey might feel like a warm hug, it is actually a physiological traitor. When you take a sip of alcohol in a freezing house, you immediately feel a pleasant burning sensation in your chest and a flush of heat on your cheeks. You interpret this as your body warming up, but the exact opposite is happening. Alcohol acts as a powerful vasodilator, which forces the blood vessels near your skin to open wide and steal warm blood from your vital organs to dump it into your extremities. That flush on your face is not the heat of survival, but rather the heat of your heart and lungs escaping through your skin into the cold room. For a senior citizen, this is catastrophic because you are voluntarily lowering your core temperature while simultaneously turning off your body's natural shivering reflex. You will feel warm and comfortable right up until the moment you lose consciousness. Furthermore, alcohol is a diuretic that accelerates dehydration in a situation where you are likely already rationing water. The smart move is to ignore the liquor cabinet entirely and instead drink hot sugar water or broth because your body needs the fuel to stoke its internal furnace without opening the windows to the cold. Mistake hash 7. The cold dehydration. It is the dead of night in your single-story home, and the only sound is the wind rattling the gutters. The power has been out for 48 hours, and the temperature in your living room is dropping to match the silence of the blizzard outside. You are wrapped in 3 layers of blankets, and you do not feel thirsty at all, which is exactly why this mistake is so lethal. In the summer heat, your body screams for water, but in this freezing stillness, your thirst mechanism essentially goes into hibernation. You assume that because you are not sweating, you are retaining water, but the physics of the cold are working against you. The dry winter air is a sponge that sucks moisture right out of your skin and lungs. Every time you breathe out and see that white cloud of vapor, you are physically expelling moisture into the dry air, which accounts for losing nearly a full liter of water daily just by sitting still and breathing. For our generation, this creates a terrifying physiological chain reaction because as we age, our blood volume naturally decreases. When you add cold-induced dehydration to the mix, your blood begins to thicken like syrup. This increased viscosity forces your heart to pump harder against stiff arteries, dramatically raising the risk of a stroke just when the roads are blocked and the ambulance is impossible to reach. The survival rule is to treat water like a prescription medication. Do not wait for the urge to drink, because it will never come. Keep a bottle of room-temperature water inside your blanket fort and take small sips every hour to keep your blood flowing freely. Mistake hash 8. The cotton trap. You are standing in your bedroom by the fading light of a flashlight looking for your warmest clothes. Instinct tells you to reach for those heavy denim jeans and that thick, comfortable cotton sweatshirt you have worn for 20 years. It feels like armor against the cold draft seeping through the window, but in a survival situation, cotton is not a fabric, it is a traitor. The problem arises the moment you exert yourself just a little bit, perhaps by moving boxes to find a flashlight or nervously pacing the hallway. You sweat slightly and cotton absorbs that moisture like a sponge, refusing to let it evaporate. Once that fabric becomes damp even slightly, it ceases to serve as insulation and transforms into a conductor, which draws heat away from your vital organs 25 times faster than air alone. You might find yourself shivering violently while buried under 3 expensive wool blankets, completely confused as to why you cannot get warm. The answer is that the layer touching your skin is actively refrigerating you. For our demographic, this is particularly dangerous because our thinner skin offers almost no barrier to this aggressive evaporative cooling. The rule is simple, so leave the jeans and t-shirts in the drawer. You need to dress like a hiker even inside your own living room. Choose wool, fleece, or synthetic polyester, blends that wick moisture away. If you feel even the slightest bit of clamminess on your back, change your base layer immediately, because in a house without heat staying dry is the only way to stay alive. Mistake #9. The open flame fallacy. It is day 4 of the ice storm, and the cold has seeped into the drywall of your suburban home. In a desperate bid for comfort, you might decide to open the old fireplace flue or light that cluster of decorative candles on the mantel. This feels primal and safe, but for a senior living alone, this is statistically one of the most dangerous decisions you can make. The National Fire Protection Association reports that heating equipment is the second leading cause of home fire deaths, but the real danger lies in the modern materials surrounding you. Your single-story home is likely filled with modern synthetic furniture and foam padding, which burn differently than the solid wood and cotton of your childhood. 30 years ago, you had nearly 17 minutes to escape a house fire. But today, due to the rapid combustion of synthetic home furnishings, you have less than 3 minutes to get out before flashover occurs. If you rely on a walker or struggle with night vision, however, 3 minutes is simply not enough time to wake up, orient yourself, and navigate a dark, icy hallway to safety. Furthermore, if you or a spouse uses medical oxygen, an open flame is not just a fire risk, but an immediate explosion hazard. The survival strategy is to prioritize body heat over room heat. Use chemical hand warmers and wool layers instead of open flames, because in a grid-down scenario, preserving your shelter is just as important as preserving your body temperature. Mistake #10. The medication gap. You have successfully kept your house warm enough, and you have stayed hydrated, but now you face a threat that no amount of blankets can fix. It is day 5 of the isolation, and you look at your prescription bottle to realize you are down to your last 2 pills. You might assume that as soon as the plows run, the pharmacy will be open, but this reliance on the system is a critical error. Most local pharmacies in the United States operate on a strict just-in-time inventory model, meaning they only hold about 3 days of stock on their shelves. If the delivery trucks are stuck in the same snow that trapped you, that pharmacy is effectively empty before you even get there. This creates a lethal gap between your supply and the next delivery. For a senior citizen managing hypertension, this gap is not just an inconvenience. The cold weather naturally constricts your blood vessels, which already raises your blood pressure, but if you suddenly stop taking your maintenance medication, specifically beta blockers, you trigger a violent rebound effect that can drive your blood pressure high enough to cause a stroke, even if you are sitting perfectly still. The storm puts your body under maximum stress exactly when you are removing its chemical support. The survival rule is to never let your supply drop below 1 week during winter. If you are currently low, do not ration the pills by skipping days, because steady reduced dosage is often safer than the shock of stopping completely. You must treat your medicine cabinet with the same urgency as your food pantry, because in a slow collapse, your heart does not care about the weather forecast. The storm outside is completely indifferent to you because it does not care if you have a prescription to fill or a driveway to clear. But you care. Surviving these next few days is not about being the strongest person on the block, but rather it is about being the smartest. It is about accepting the hard truth that at this stage of life, our greatest survival tool is not a shovel, but patience. We do not fight the cold because that is a battle we will lose. Instead, we outwait it. We respect the limits of our aging hearts, and we listen to the silence of our bodies. The grid may fail and the roads may vanish under the whiteout, but if you respect your biology and avoid these 10 silent traps, you will be the one opening the curtains when the snow finally melts to see the sun again. If you have a parent or a neighbor living alone who might still believe a space heater is safe or that a glass of brandy will keep them warm, please share this video with them right now. You are not just sending a link, you are sending a survival manual that could save them from a mistake they cannot undo.